Welcome to Red Eye Story Hour for tales told after midnight. Today we're reading Chapter 2 of the Mountain Warriors series from the first book, Outcast. If you asked most people, they would say that the world ended 2 years ago when the dead began to walk. More correctly, when those who looked like they were dead began to walk. And not just walk, but to eat those who still lived. The governments of the world cordoned off great swaths of land to quarantine areas that were ruled by these zombie-like things. They curiously called the areas the Forbidden Zones, as if trying to draw upon archaically hidden and dark fears that drew off superstitious dread and religious taboos. In the before, I would never have guessed such hyperbolic language would be taken seriously in the modern age. But now times really were that rank. Vast areas of agricultural importance, areas with minerals and oil fields, and areas that supplied what we thought were the necessity of life were off limits, with the threat of instant death either from literal monsters, paranoid survivors, or government enforcers. Conspiracy theories served as news, propaganda as truth, and vice versa, depending upon who you asked. No one trusted anyone, but everyone thought they had the truth. No one person who claimed to hold the truth agreed with another, and many people believed that that was done on purpose. That was the game outside the Forbidden Zone. Inside, the game was simply survival against every monstrosity imaginable, from actual zombies to starvation. It was rumored that the population inside the quarantine area had been annihilated by 90% in the 2 years of the plague. On the other hand, for many in the safe zone, the end of the world meant no longer getting cream in your coffee regularly. Most of the time it was stretched out with roasted dandelion or chicory root. That was actually my only claim to fame. I did an undercover investigation into the one remaining coffee corporation. It was cutting ground coffee beans with dandelion root. I almost faced a lynch mob. People were so pissed at my reporting because it caused the cost of coffee to rise by 85%. Did anyone wonder if it was because their coffee was 80% something else? No, they preferred coffee, no matter how diluted, at a price they could afford. Even worse, I caught heat from my uncle and adopted father, the governor. With the same last name, the fire from both his constituents and the corporation that cut and sold the weakened coffee caused him to sink in the polls. To see my work paid off in scorn still stung me. We also dealt with regular rolling blackouts, leaving us without electricity for an hour or two. That was the tragedy of modern life. It made me laugh out loud thinking about that as tragedy in retrospect. But the government tried hardest not to ensure food, transportation, energy, or other essentials were in supply, but to ensure continuous streams of entertainment to forget that life was horrible. Oddly, an entertainment shortage was the only thing to make the populace riot. While everyone's lifestyle went to hell, we were still entertained by two very different types of shows. One was the countless reality shows of celebrities living it up like people did in the before. These were as vapid as ever. But I guess it gave people hope that a return to easier times was achievable if we just kept the faith in the authorities. The other type of entertainment was the experimental drone footage from the FEMA quarantine zones. Tommy was attempting to combine his government connections with his natural showmanship to catapult himself as some media entertainment government complex celebrity. That may sound like a conflict of interest, but at the time, government officials not only had unlimited power, but if they could keep the populace entertained and content enough not to riot, they had pretty much free rein to do anything. The populace, though on edge, was extremely forgiving if offered a treat. As the bar went back to scattered conversation, Tommy turned to me and said, "It sucks they can't do something like a documentary in that area. You know, like Survivor Man, where they film people, surviving. It would make some more bucks than this venture. He gestured to the drone footage on the TV screen. Now someone on the screen was petting a feral-looking dog. Both animal and man shared the same hangdog face of living right on the edge. But there was a friendship between the two. I was expecting the person to get bitten or something. But nothing dramatic happened. I mean, neither the dog nor the man looked inclined to such violence. But to make it on TV, something inside of me expected such drama, and Tommy knew it. "Why can't we do that?" I asked. It wasn't a rhetorical question. Why can't someone go in and document the life? I mean, the drone footage is missing the human touch that only an interview could give. Tommy looked at me as if I had been bitten by one of those zombie-like things, and laughed. "Are you nuts? Who the heck is stupid enough to sneak into that hellhole? Anyone who tries to return from the Forbidden Zone would be shot on sight and incinerated. Even if they did survive the horrors. Hell, you know that." I replied, "That's what a good journalist does. That's what someone with vision and balls will risk." I answered without considering what I was saying. I felt totally sober. The alcohol could not stem the flow of thoughts, my goals, my dreams. "Again," Tommy snorted with cynical laughter. "Who the heck is that crazy?" He paused and asked skeptically, "You?" He looked into my eyes as if reading my thoughts, and laughed a full belly laugh. "Dude, you wouldn't laugh. You are a total wuss. You dropped out of journalism school before going back and finishing. Even when you tried to freelance it in the Middle East and South American war zones, you flaked out and had to call upon your uncle to pull some strings to bail you out of there multiple times." I remained silent as those old wounds were ripped open. I had been athletic, studious, ambitious. It was just in the last year that I succumbed to alcoholic decadence. Tommy laughed again. This time it was more sober, like a snort when someone finally figures out an answer to a long-standing problem. It was an answer that sat right in front of your face, like a stubborn drunk at a bar who refuses to leave at closing time. "What?" I asked. "Your eyes," he said, looking into my soul. "What about them?" I pressed. Tommy held his thumb and forefinger in a rectangle and looked at me as if viewing me on a silver screen. He smiled quizzically at me and said, like a TV producer, "You look both as determined and as crazy as that father when he shot out the drone."